Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at my first ever XENOMORPH figure. I know a lot of you guys have been asking for this sort of thing. I finally got at least a little bit of content for you. This is from the Aliens Colonial Marines line of figures, and it is from, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, unfortunately, Hiya or Hiya Toys. You can check them out at those two places if you're curious more about these. They are also at bigbadtoystore.com. You can use the link in the description. These figures are not the same scale as the import figures like the SH Figure Arts. These are a smaller scale figure, so if you're looking for something along those lines, these are for you. Highly articulated, and they come with a pretty good variety of accessories. We've got 2 hands on the figure now, 6 additional hands. We've got the, what is this thing called, a face hugger. You guys know I'm not familiar with this stuff, but we've got one of these, so that's pretty cool. Not super detailed, but the sculpt is there, paints are there. As far as I remember, these guys don't exactly have a whole lot going on, so that's pretty good. Pretty nice sculpt. I'll give you a measurement for that. It's about 3 inches long from head to tail, about 1 inch for the body. Creepy little bugger. We also have the pod. Again, like I said, I don't know what these things are called officially, but we have this pod thing that the face hugger shoots out of. It doesn't really do that. I guess it's not horrible, but that's pretty cool, I guess. It looks about 1 3/4 inches tall. Pretty much solid plastic that is hollow inside, but we have a nice kind of glossy paint job on here to make it look slimy. Pretty good sculpt and paint work there. And then, like I said, we have the alternate hands, and we have a little base that just looks like some metal grating with a peg in it for the foot. So we'll set that aside. Let's look at the alternate hands. We have 2 that seem to be just the standard kind of open palm. You can see that you do have that kind of skeletal look, and the shading brings that out nicely. And then the muscular looking palms. Set those back inside the package as we're going. Then we have 2 open hands that are a little bit more open, just for some variety, some posing options. Really nicely sculpted again. And they do have just the peg for the wrist, so it's just a swivel for the wrist in there. Put those away, and then the last set of alternate hands have more of a style pose, if you want to call it that, with the fingers kind of bent differently. So that's pretty cool. And then the hands that come on the figure are fairly similar to the first set. They're just more of like an open palm type hand. So if you're curious about the size, with the legs straight up and down, which I know you probably wouldn't pose them that way, but just to give you an idea, I just flung the stuff all over the place. He stands about 5 inches tall to the top of the head, so it's pretty much in scale with your G.I. Joes or Marvel Universe, or maybe roughly the Walking Dead figures. It's supposed to be pretty much the 1/18 scale or 3 3/4 inch scale, so having the extra height is about appropriate for these guys. They're sculpted pretty well. I do like them. I mean, like you guys know, I'm not the biggest Alien fan at all, but I can still judge an action figure whether I like the IP or not. And they did a good job on these. For the scale especially, the sculpt work is really nicely done. Lots of detail. They have that nice dry brushing to go around to really accentuate all that skeletal and muscular sculpt, I guess you could call it. And then, like I said, on the hands, the glossiness just gives it a really nice effect. And then we'll go through the articulation in a second. The tail, which is my favorite feature, it's bendable. It's really nicely bendable. You can do just about whatever you want. It's bendable all the way up to the spear tip, so you can't bend that at all, which makes sense. And you can bend that. I'd be a little careful at the end so you don't pop the wire through, but it's really nicely flexible, and they did a really good job at that. So I could see a lot of you guys who are going to pose these things for pictures, for photographs, you will be able to get some really nice poses done there. Now the head, unfortunately, and maybe they didn't do this in the game, I definitely didn't play the Alien game, the mouth does not, that inside mouth does not come out or anything like that. So that would have been cool, but for the price point and the size, I didn't really expect it, and that's fine. The articulation for the head is really good, all the way down, all the way up, you know, side to side. Really anything you want to do, you can do it. These are not bendable, but they are softer material, so you don't really have to worry about those breaking off. That's all fine. We have a ball hinge shoulder, fairly similar articulation to what we've seen in the recent McFarlane stuff. So that's pretty good. I think it's pretty much on par with the industry standard, if not better than, because we've got a lot of that articulation. So we have that kind of ball hinge shoulder without the bicep swivel. Got a hair stuck in there. We have the swivel down here in the bicep, and then that's another hinged right there. Get a little bit better than 90 degrees if you kind of force it. It depends if it'll stay or not, but at least 90 degrees, so that's good. And then you saw the wrist articulation is just the swivel. The abdominal articulation feels like a double ball peg. It might just be a single. I think it's double though, and you really do get some good articulation. The ab crunch itself isn't that great. It doesn't go that far forward, but it goes really far back and all the way around, and we do get the full rotation. And on this sculpt for this XENOMORPH, I think the diaphragm joint is definitely the best way to go. So I'm pretty okay with that. I don't mind the diaphragm joint on this guy at all. For the hips, we have a ball hinge. It swivels at the groin, in the thigh, and then we have the hinge in between, so you can rotate that around to get the legs to go where you need them to go. Of course, they're limited by the sculpt, but what are you going to do? That's what they look like, so that's all you can do. But you can get the leg up and all the way around and get the splits going a little bit, so that's fine. The knee is just like the elbow. It'll swivel at the top of the knee joint. Then you have the hinge down here. Straighten it out. Get about 90 degrees out of that. I think maybe a little bit better would have been nice, but it's certainly not, you know, it's not too limited. I'm okay with that. And then the ankle, if you want to call it an ankle, is you have the swivel, again, just like the knee, and then the hinge. So you can get it to go that far forward and then almost straight down, and that's the foot that has the peg in it. So that's okay by me. I do wish that there was an ankle at the bottom down here that gave him a little bit more practical posability, in that you can get the feet to spread out without kind of flaying out to the side, but you can kind of rotate it around and get it to be the way you want it. Hopefully, if you spend the time posing it, it shouldn't be too bad, especially at the scale and price point. I think that's, you know, that's an okay thing. I don't think we need to have every little bit of articulation in a piece like this. So you put him on his stand, just a real quick pose. It definitely helps to use the display stand because he's not the most anatomically balanced thing for being a piece of plastic. But it's a really cool looking figure. I think if you're an Alien fan, especially if you're a 3 3/4 inch fan, these are good for you. These will definitely take some nice photos. As you can see, they look really, really good. You know, looking at it like this, you wouldn't know necessarily that it was such a small figure. They did a good job with these, and especially when you have all of the extra little bits to make the scene come to life. I think you guys are gonna like them. So that is the XENOMORPH Soldier from the Alien Colonial Marines. I'll also be reviewing the Lurker, so keep an eye out for that. I do recommend the figure, guys, so thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.